Well, let me tell you a little something about me. When it's Saturday night, I need to blow off some steam. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I've been rolling in since the clock came Monday morning. From the end of the week, I'm bound to blow. We're walking through the honky tonk like a pack of wolves now. Order of a round of drops and it's away we go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is Equipment Talk from IRAY. And we have a special guest here again today, and it's Russell. Russell,
Hello.
Thank you for coming out today.
Hello.
And they can hear you fine. Can't
Okay.
they?
I was just
good.
making sure, listening
All
to
right.
it come back at me.
We don't want to yell at him yet, okay? Just take it
Okay.
easy.
Okay.
But again, we want to, we're going to talk a little bit about about the alternative fuels for equipment and that kind of a thing. And Russell, from your perspective, you've worked at like an ethanol.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, early in my life, I guess, probably 25 years ago, it's what got me through college, I guess.
You don't even look that much older than 25.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Thank
getting
you.
past there, huh?
Thank you very much.
Wow.
The time has been good to my skin. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So I started there. I worked, I think 7 years I spent working there. Got the job there 21, 22.
Now, were they building the place before you started, or did they already have it built and you started?
I was actually one of the first employees they hired. They hired me as a loader. So the output or the byproduct, like the grain, the wet distiller's grain, stuff like that, that's a byproduct of ethanol. I would load onto trucks. And
Okay, so that was a product that when they were done using it,
Yep.
you were actually pulling it out of there.
yeah,
How'd they move that stuff around, or how'd that work?
we used bobcats and then payloaders, bucket trucks, or yeah, yeah,
Skid loader?
Yep, a lot
Wheel
of
loaders?
Yep.
Did you use any track
boom
loaders?
Yeah, we had to do one with the boom on it to get around in, because some of it is wet feed as well. The process of ethanol is to take corn, and then ferment it and turn it into alcohol. Well, the byproduct is still the shell and everything left other than the liquid from the process. So they would sell different kind of grains because cattle love it and it's good for them, and it makes our...
So the byproduct they would take and sell to farmers?
Yep. So they buy their product to produce feed for livestock. And then another byproduct of it was a syrup. And
wow.
so if you had old food that livestock wouldn't eat...
So was it like Aunt Jemima syrup, or?
No, it's more like it was really stinky, but it was more like a molasses thing. So
What'd they do with that?
well, they would spray it over feed that livestock wouldn't eat. And the livestock loved this syrup. So let's say there's a pile of hay that livestock hasn't touched in months
so
and months.
Sell it to farmers again?
Yeah, they'd sell it back to the farmer and they'd spray it over stuff that the cows didn't want. And then once they put that syrup on it, man, it was like adding chocolate or some sugar to it.
Wow, that's
It became their tobacco, I guess.
So how big of a plant was this? I mean, how many gallons would you guys produce in a week?
Yeah, it's the second ethanol plant that was ever built. It was built by an engineer. Broyne is the one that designed the plant and everything. I got a chance to meet him and stuff. He was close in the building of it. And it was only at that time an 8 million a year plant, which sounds small, but back then that was a big thing.
So what do you mean, 8 million gallons or 8 million?
8 million gallons of ethanol. And then that's how they rate those plants. Yeah, how big they are.
Okay.
This same plant since, because they were one of the most efficient ones that Broyne had built. So I always used the model of that plant to build future ones, because it was such a cost effective things. Because I was there when the government was still like, what do you call that? Subsidizing. Because it actually cost more money than you could sell a gallon of ethanol for. But they wanted it to go, so the government subsidized it, hoping that innovation would happen.
So didn't they pass a law for that ethanol to get mixed with gasoline?
Yep. And honestly, the rule on that law is we have to put 5% because when ethanol is done, it's 200% alcohol. But it's illegal by the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to sell. So we honestly put something in there. So if somebody tries to drink it, it's now toxic. And that really is the only reason that we have to mix. They actually mix head gas. That's what it's called. So when we're done with the 200 proof alcohol, we seriously would just put 5% of something that if you drink it, you're going to know you drank it instead of getting, intoxicated.
You're going to get pretty sick.
Yep. No, you would. Yeah. And it was only the habit because, there was regulation. You can't sell that.
Did you have a lot of people in that town that would kind of look for that 200 proof?
Yeah. People were always sneaking in there saying, where can I get a jug of that? And we'd be like, no, sorry, can't do it. This company called the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms will come in and
shut it down.
Yep. And that really was the purpose of it. It was kind of an interesting process to see it from front to end. It was cool. And I was in there so early, I got to see that. But yeah, that kind of just paid my way through college and changed my life.
How did it change now? Ethanol's profitable now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So what did they change in their way of the manufacturing the product?
Yeah, they used to make steam. Okay, so you had to have a boiler to steam things, to heat things up because of the correct temperature to separate water and alcohol.
Sure.
Well, you got to pay natural gas or whatever's supplying that boiler to create that steam. You're paying more for the gas that it's taking for that gallon of gas. They then switched the process to a chemical conversion.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of key for ethanol. Anything they could back off on the gas because most of the expense in that ethanol process, other than the big buildings and tanks and everything, was the steam that it took to feed that.
So it was the gasoline that it took the
the energy it took to produce what it was,
Yeah. So
in the beginning, you were using more gas than you were producing, but they stood behind it because, it's something first that we have in the heartland of the USA that get our requirements from foreign oil to go down, but it's also better for the environment, burns clean. I mean,
it's pretty corrosive too, isn't it?
Well, they say to gaskets and stuff like that, on the inside, they say it
dries out like seals and
stuff like that.
And
but
then also in the inside for rings and bearings, I mean, it's dry, so it's really dry.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but what's worse, the corrosion of the gaskets or the gas power that's corrosing the ozone layer? I mean, so, and as time has gone and people are more E85 vehicles are coming aboard, I guess, they've kind of redesigned it to handle it a little bit. Really can't redesign the ozone to, so either way, I think the ethanol is the better source, and like everything, threw a couple curveballs and they corrected them. Every time I have the choice, I go corn.
So did they have train cars or did you load trucks when you put the fuel? So they have train cars?
Both. We would load the byproduct, which would be the grain and everything. We put them, primarily the grain went locally, but we would load that, I guess, on train cars. But what we outputted, the actual ethanol itself would get loaded onto train cars. We do... I loaded probably 6 of those things a day. We just
6 of them big tankers.
Yeah. We we had a little. We had to do a conversion thing to figure out how many gallons we could put in it, and then we just had a meter that turned it on, and it probably took about hour and a half.
Build a program for something like that, then?
No. That is where my love of programming really took its next level, though.
Okay.
These ethanol plants, they have a control room. And they're called pneumatic valves.
Okay.
So you're sitting behind a computer screen, you click a button, and now that valve out in the plant would actually move a little bit.
Sure.
I was kind of intrigued by it. So they sent me to Yokogawa in Atlanta. It's right outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
To learn how to program them so they could have somebody on site that could mess with these things right away. Because when they malfunction and stuff, they wanted somebody there so they didn't have to fly somebody in from Atlanta. It was so expensive. So they spent me there for training because they saw it. Actually, at that part, I had already started school and I was doing it as night classes and whatever I could do just to see if this is what I wanted to do. And when they sent me to that Yokogawa thing is why I really said
some programming.
Yeah, I like that scripting stuff, man. That's nice.
So now, you said they use a different type of product now that you can actually put in the or not in the ethanol, but to make the
Yep.
ethanol. And what is that? I mean, it's not like
See, that evolved after I had left the industry.
okay.
I really only know that from people that I'm still friends with that do it, and also the articles about it. Plus, because I got to meet him and everything, I've always kind of followed what the brewing industry has done.
Okay.
Because in the ethanol industry, and really just kind of him, what I've gathered is he's kind of innovative, and he likes to come up with a different way of doing things.
Okay.
And he has blogs and everything out there, and followed
really?
by a lot of people. He's a nice guy to follow for just like
Just updates on different things that are
just
going
different
on.
things, because he
Kinda
generally
like what we're doing a little bit.
yeah,
to
kind
let
of
people
like
know.
this podcast. He just whatever avenue it is, he just wants to make it a little better, and whatever knowledge and whatever, thinks outside the box.
Yeah, yeah. So now, as far as the ethanol, is that all they mix it in? Is like gasoline, or is there other things that they mix that ethanol into that they used it for? You're saying that that the byproduct of it they fed to cattle, right?
Yep.
And they also had the syrup that come off from it.
Yep.
Now, after they went into that whole new process, did they still have syrup that was left?
Yeah. Not the main byproducts. You had the two, and the other one is really just the leftover wastewater that they can't do anything with, that they have to chemically treat and then pass along. But the syrup, no, I believe its only use really is to go back for livestock purposes.
Okay.
When I said they had a wet distiller's grain, the difference between the wet and the dry distiller's grain is the wet grain, they leave the syrup in it. In the dry grain, they spin the syrup out of it. So they still both have, in the wet grain, you're getting like both of them in one mixture.
Okay.
But some people don't want it, and they want the dry stuff, plus the shipping of wet grain. If you're going to go a long distance, it's going to mold, because all the moisture in it. But if you spin that syrup out of there, that dry grain, we can ship to California pretty easily. It's not going to spoil, stuff like that,
Okay.
So yeah, those were the byproducts. Distiller's grain, there's dry, wet, and then
So again, to answer my question was that did they mix the ethanol in any other type?
oh yeah, not that I know of. Gasoline, I think, is about its only purchase. I mean, but I did every once in a while use that stuff in a little spray bottle for a cleaner.
Oh,
Works great.
well, I bet.
I mean, I don't think. Oh, I take that back. They have. It's here in Minnesota. They have. If you look up Shaker's vodka, that is made at an ethanol plant here in Minnesota. Shaker's vodka.
Is it 200 proof? Like yours?
No, they in the distilling process, I think they get it to about 80 proof. But
Oh.
Look it up. Shaker's vodka
Wow.
here in Minnesota.
Well, we got all kinds of ways. We went from equipment to
Yeah. Well, no, but that would be another byproduct then. You have to take one more level for the food and drug. You got to be certified because
got to be cleaner.
Yep.
And it's got to be basically, so it's like a serving type thing. So they're going to have to make sure that everything is made with like a stainless or something of that nature for cleaning purposes and so on and so forth, I suppose. Huh?
Yeah.
And it being alcohol, I mean, it's a cleaner anyways, right?
Right.
So that was kind of cool.
That was
right.
really cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that talk. It was, it's great having you over here, Russell. And, and we really do appreciate the fact that, we're going to actually have some more talks about different types of fuels.
Yeah.
Alternative fuels will make a total difference as far as in the industry. We're going to talk again about some of the differences between electric and alternative fuels that'll give give everybody a better understanding. And I know our government, sometimes they look at the fact that, that we have alternative fuels, but which ones are the best for our
Right.
environment, right?
Well, and like you were kind of saying to me off of this was, each one of them has a purpose, that just because electric isn't the right thing for your application, it doesn't mean one of the others,
A lot of people never realize that, that these electric forklifts have been around for 20 years.
I didn't think of it till you told me that. Those battery packs that are on there and all those batteries, yeah. You think that could be reused in another application, but
Sure.
those seem to stick along a lot longer than your normal ones. It's like you try to kill those things and they just keep kicking.
Well, they're inside of buildings, right?
Right.
And that's again equipment.
Yep.
And we see that. But now if we took a gas powered, so it would be either propane,
Right.
Put a propane
yeah.
tank on. It's cleaner, but it's a little, it's a little dirtier because it has the gases coming off from it. So you're
Yeah.
going to get some kind of, carbon footprint from it.
Yep.
So that's why they take in different places. But
It's kind of funny you say that though. This ethanol plant I was at, we had a propane tank lift or a forklift. we had to replace the tanks on it every once in a while because when I first started as a loader, we ran all the equipment that was around and we had to do maintenance to it. And yeah, each one was different. But with the propane one, we have to switch out the things. With the electric one, we always had to make sure that we're making sure we blowing the grain and stuff off the battery packs.
Right?
Yeah, you wanted to make sure the connections were solid and stuff like that. But now that you said that, yeah, we had a propane. So you'd think they could do even a little bit more propane. I'm not sure the process of making propane, how much it's really,
it's a byproduct.
good for the environment, but
it's a byproduct that they usually have, in big burners. If you are in these refineries, they're burning off propane that's coming off.
Oh, that's what
now they're vacuuming the propane. I'm going to have a guy come in that he actually owns some land that his aunt owned, and she willed it to him, and it's out in the it's like Louisiana area or something like that.
Nice.
And they pull the propane out of the ground, and I'm not sure about the whole process of it.
Yeah.
But he actually owns that land, and he leases it to these big companies that actually pull the propane out of it. So
I don't know. I'll be looking that propane up this week too. I think I don't know either.
We'll talk about that.
All right.
But again, I want to thank you again, Russell, for coming out here, and we'll have more talk about our equipment talk and alternative fuels because that's what runs them. So again, we want to thank you for coming out here, and we want to thank you viewers for watching us on this podcast. And this is Equipment Talk from IRAY. Thank you.